Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review of Dexter Original Sin, Season 1, Episode 10, the finale. We've made it. This is the last we're going to have of this franchise for what is it? Just like 4 months. Resurrection supposedly coming in June / the summer.
It is, and we don't know if we're going to get a second season of this. It feels like it's been left open that there can be. I mean, what a wonderful Valentine's Day treat. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. This is my favorite holiday. I love love. So I hope you guys are all out there enjoying love and enjoying Valentine's Day. And we saw some of that even in this episode. This very last scene, watching Deb and Dexter and Harry all dancing together. I mean, it filled me with joy. It was really nice to see Dexter really in with his family. And I know that he does have a hard time feeling things, but this was so great to see. Very satisfying finale in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that familial love is like the one kind of love that Dexter really understands. Like, we've had plenty of our jokes this season when it comes to Dexter's romantic life. I still think that Tim and Sophia, that was some of the funniest stuff we had this entire season. But he really does care about Deb. He cares about Harry. He cares about making Harry proud. And like, these are some of the things that reverberated through this finale. And yeah, I feel like unless Paramount Plus and Showtime have like some weird out of body experience where some like terrible voice in their head is like, don't make more of this. Like,
they're like, we don't want any more money.
Yeah, it's like there's gonna be another season of this, and I think that's why they ended things in the way in which they ended them in this season, so that they didn't do anything that was gonna make it too difficult for them down the road. I think that this finale, yes, it was predictable in some ways. It didn't take any sort of like really, really huge swings. Like, yeah, there's probably one or two things I wish they had done that they didn't do, but there's a lot of things that I'm glad that they didn't do, and they just kind of took a somewhat safer approach here.
Yeah, they wrap this up that if for whatever reason the show doesn't come back, but I feel in my heart it will come back. There's lots of love for this show. I feel like it's going to come back. That like this was wrapped up in a way that I feel is fairly satisfying for everyone. And I mean, I can't ask for anything more.
Well, we'll get into everything else that happened in this finale, the end of Spencer, what's going on with Brian. Before we do, though, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because yes, I know that Original Sin is ending for now, but like we said, Resurrection is coming this summer. We will be here to break that down. And also, you already have Paramount Plus and Showtime. Yellow Jackets has just started. We already have at the channel our review of the first 2 episodes, which premiered today. We highly suggest you go and check that out. I'm hoping it's going to be a really, really fun season over there.
Absolutely. Hit that subscribe button. Show us some love. And also head over to our Patreon. We've got a link for you down below. It's a great way to help support us.
Yeah.
We are covering over there exclusively. It is the only place you can get these weekly videos. The Pit, which is airing on Max.
Yeah.
And Prime Target, which is airing on Apple TV Plus. So thank you so much for showing us the love.
Thank you guys so much. And I just want to ask a question of you and of everybody out there watching. When we saw this confrontation happen between Brian and Harry, how many of you thought that that was actually going to be the end of Harry? I'm raising my hand too. Like, it's something you brought up episodes ago. We've talked about it at length. This idea of, okay, Harry is going to die at Brian's hands. I legitimately thought it was coming, and
it's coming. It's coming in season 2 or 3.
I do think that there is a chance that it's coming, but even after this finale, I still find myself really torn about it, because just for right now, like, I'm just going to speak about this episode. I'm glad it didn't happen because, one, I do want to spend more time with Christian Slater. I think he's doing a good job as Harry, but beyond just that, I am going to really struggle with this idea that this is something that Dexter can never really get justice for. And okay, yeah, sure, Brian gets taken out in Dexter season 1, and maybe that's justice, but he would have never known the truth about what happens to his dad, and that just makes me so unbelievably sad.
Yeah.
I think it's fine if Brian doesn't end up taking out Harry.
Agreed.
And
I
that,
think it's better that he doesn't take out Harry because then it doesn't connect these series the way that it should.
yeah, and it just makes things a little bit too complicated. And also, we talked about this previously. We needed this show to come up with a reasonable explanation as to why Brian is just going to peace out, not bother Dexter, and not turn up until the events of Dexter season 1. And it seems like we have that. I mean, we can argue as to whether or not
No.
it's like, is that enough? But it seems like it's enough for now.
I don't think we have that. That was the part that I was kind of like, okay, do we have it? Don't we have it? We had this confrontation with Harry and Brian where Harry's just like, man, I understand you want to be with Dexter, but look at how well he's doing. Like, you could do a solid for your brother by
Yeah.
staying away from him, which I've never really agreed with that throughout this whole series. Like, even this episode, the beginning of it is being narrated by Brian and
Yeah.
sort of like, you see him in the container with Dexter trying to like do what he can to help his brother. Like everybody telling him to stay away from his brother was really kind of weird. Even the therapist being like, stay away from your brother. I didn't get that at all. It didn't make any sense. But for Harry, he has motivation to be like, stay away from him. He's doing really well. Don't you want to see him thrive? You're just going to bring in chaos. And Brian leaves him there handcuffed to a pipe with the words, "You're right" on it. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
is that going to be it then? And then later on, he thinks he's got his life together in a way that Dexter would understand, and that then it's time for them to meet. But then he shows up at the end, peering in through the window. So I was just like, okay, so no.
Here's my tinfoil hat on it for right
Okay.
now. I don't necessarily think that Brian is going to be a huge part of season 2 or season 3. I mean, he might show up here and there, but they can't alter the canon, at least this canon, that significantly where Brian and Dexter are hanging out or any of that. But
Right.
what I think is probably going to happen is I think that Brian is still going to keep tabs on Dexter because obviously it's his brother. There's a natural curiosity there. I think he's probably going to want to make sure that Dexter continues to have this quote unquote good life that Harry says that he does, because if he does have a good life, maybe he thinks, okay, I am honoring that by staying away, but I'm still kind of on the periphery of Dexter's life, so I still feel like I'm involved. And maybe he's like, okay, if Dexter's life starts to go completely downhill, maybe I'll show up at that point, because otherwise, what's the point for me to stay away?
Right. But he does just show up for no real reason at that point, except that he wants to be back with Dexter again. And I think it's at that point he feels that the two of them are really on the same wavelength, where he's really started to learn Dexter's dark passenger. And he's like, oh my God, we're the same. Like, Carrie told me that he's living this great life and he's doing really well. And if I go in there, I'm going to muck it all up. And then years later is like, oh, wow, my brother is exactly like me. I've stayed away from him this whole time when we could have been together and we are the same. And I really liked the beginning of this episode so much.
Me too.
I really liked learning what happened to Brian. I'd been kind of hoping there would be a Brian spinoff, and maybe there still will be, but getting this background on what happened to him, seeing him in that container with Dexter, like trying to like sing to him and coddle him and try to help him through it. It really did show me that there was a way to save Brian. I think that Brian was not completely just gone. It was just a bunch of really bad circumstances that led him to where he was. Yes, he already had the dark passenger. So did Dexter. He said so in this episode.
Yeah.
But with the right tutelage, Brian might have also been able to learn the code. If you're going to teach Dexter and you think Dexter's, young enough to be able to be saved, oh, he's not, all right, I'll teach him the code, then why couldn't Brian have learned the code?
That's really the great tragedy of this story. I cannot agree with you more about the start of this episode. Like, I thought this was so good and really well written, really well thought out.
Yeah, and you even saw that Brian did want to get better. Like, that whole thing with him in the institution where he sees the orderly, or he knows the orderly's not giving him his medication. It's like, hey, I'm supposed to be on a different medication. Where is it? And he's selling it to a guard. And he's like, I want to get better. Like, I feel like I could get better. Like, where is this medication? I was just like, oh, Brian.
It's the ultimate nature versus nurture argument that this show is bringing a lot to the table here, and this
Yeah.
idea of, yeah, Brian has a dark passenger, but could he have been nurtured into someone else? I think there's a lot of just really tragic elements baked into all of this. I think we have to remember, first and foremost, the time period. There was not
Yes.
anywhere near as much treatment for these sort of
Nope.
issues as there is now. There wasn't a lot of reckoning with, male mental health in particular in that time period. There's a lot of
Correct.
expectations that are put on people. And then beyond all that, yeah, he's getting shipped from one group home to the next group home. And, Harry wasn't equipped to deal with that. And he went to a lot of other places that weren't equipped to deal with that. And by the time that we're in a situation where Brian seems to be getting more consistent treatment, like he's already so damaged at that point, and it feels like he's just getting really bad advice. And I mean, it's heartbreaking. I know it's hard when Brian has done so many terrible things, but he's still a person, and I think this finale really humanizes that and sort of shows you this is who this guy is and this is who this guy could have been.
Well, here's the thing about it, right? Like, Dexter is doing this as well, and he's
Yeah.
doing it to people that are doing bad things. But for Brian, his motivation is that these people specifically did bad things to him, that
Yes.
he could have been better. He feels that he could have been better enough to be able to have a relationship with his only surviving family member.
Yeah.
But because these people, locking him in a closet, taking his food, telling him to stay away from his brother, taking his medicine from him, not giving him proper treatment, he knows that these things are happening to him. And because it's just over and over and over again that he can't get better no matter what he does or where he goes, that he is blaming the people who let him down. And in some ways, I really understand why he's in that mind frame of, okay, these people could have helped me and they didn't, and now I'm an adult and I'm stuck like this and I can never get better, so thanks.
Yeah, and there's a real interesting bookend now that we've seen this full season where I think you can watch this season and then you can go and watch Dexter season 1, and I think it would really accent Brian's story there, like even more now that we have like this
Yeah.
full backstory. And yeah, I understand there's some inconsistencies here and there, but I think at the end of the day, those have ended up being not super significant to the point where it's going to distract me a lot watching Dexter season 1. I think they were careful enough to honor the significant beats that I could be okay with it.
The beef that I still have, and I saw some of you guys in the comments
Yeah.
where you were talking about how, oh, why would Maria remember this file,
Yeah.
15 years later, if I ever remembered
Yeah.
things in the past, have forgotten things. Of course I have forgotten things, but because she is a detective and I am not a detective, I think that a detective's memory for things, especially something where Harry's acting a little bit weird about a file, and then she's now overhearing that this NHI case is, no, it's not connected. Harry's like sweeping it under the table and everything that's kind of happening with it. I think this would have stuck with her. And I do think that when this was happening again later, that some of these things might have come back. The file, Harry kind of being like, oh no, it's nothing. The body that was taken apart with the chainsaw on the roof. I mean, there's so many connections that her as a detective, as a lieutenant, would have made that connection. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue. And it's something that, it doesn't fully just destroy season 1, but it does.
No, it doesn't.
It
No, it
does
doesn't.
leave you though with those questions. It does leave you with the, okay, why did they do this inconsistency? Like the other thing about like the ages of young
Yeah.
Dexter and Brian in this season, like I can get past that. They probably wanted actors a certain age, like that's
Probably.
fine. But yeah, the LaGuerta thing is weird, and it's something that will kind of stick in my head.
Especially since in season 1 of the OG series,
Yeah.
she wants to bed him. She is like flirting with him, trying to get him to go
Yeah.
out with her. I mean, she's invested in him romantically, as well as sort of watched him grow throughout his experiences here at the station with his
Yeah.
dad. He's been promoted now. He's no longer an intern.
Yeah.
Like, she's been with him a very long time and she's romantically interested. It just feels like because there's more than just one thing. It's not just the file.
Yeah.
It is the murder with the body that has been dismembered. It is also Harry kind of quietly shuffling this away. There's enough things there that I feel she would have remembered.
The LaGuerta being thirsty for Dexter in Dexter season 1. It's really funny, but okay.
It's funny looking back at it because I think they just didn't really know what to do at that point.
I know. I wish I had
okay.
I need to come up. We need a good name for this, because this is something that happens all the time on sitcoms too, where you see like these two people that are like, will they or won't they for a season, and then they forget about it and it's never brought up again later on down the road. But okay, so let's move to Spencer, because I think we all kind of felt like Dempsey, at least at this point, was going to be gone at the end of this season. I think the question...
I did.
Yeah, I did too. I think the question was just like, okay, how is this all going to happen? Is he just going to leave? Is he going to be killed off? I think what the show did that was so interesting was that, kind of like with Brian and Harry, they gave us a moment where I felt like it was going in a different direction, where here it felt like we were going to see Aaron really just take off and he was actually going to get away, and then maybe he was going to be out there for resurrection or something down the road.
Yes.
But then his anger towards his ex ended up taking over, and this is where Dexter ends up getting him. And, fast forward, Aaron is no longer with us. He has been dumped in the water.
Yes, the first body dumped in the water off the boat, where Dexter's like, oh, I could get used to this. This is working out, sort of thing. I think I'm finding my groove. I have said that I was feeling kind of a beef. I've got my beef hat on.
All right.
I really wanted to see Aaron get away so that he might show up in Resurrection as sort of like Dexter's growing pains. He can't get everything exactly right, that some things were going to get away from him and that he might have to revisit it later when he had more money or more time or whatever it was, that Aaron would be gone, because it still is going to be kind of hard to put that together, that no one has ever mentioned that the captain of the station murdered this judge's son, tried to murder his own son, 2 minors, tried to murder his wife, and then just disappeared. It was so shocking, and it is such a shocking thing that I don't know how that never comes up in all the seasons of the original Dexter. Then not at one point it was like, hey, we have Matthews now because this happened. Can you remember this crazy thing that happened? Like, it's so crazy. I just think back to all my jobs. I'm like, if something like this ever happened at one of my jobs, I would be talking about it forever, because it is so crazy.
It is really crazy. And it feels like this would be on news stations for, I don't know, 2-3 months after the fact. I know this isn't the social media age, but if it was, it would be tweeted about and shared about all over the place. It would be completely insane.
And on the show, it is all over the news. It's a huge story and a huge thing that would happen. This is the captain of the police.
I will say there's only really a couple of things that bum me out a little bit about the finale. And one of them is just this idea that whether it was with Aaron or if it was something else, like a new teaser, anything, I'm surprised they didn't do something more to get people geared up for Resurrection down the road. I kind of thought maybe we were going to go back to the present with Dexter Morgan and see Michael C. Hall again at the end of this, just because that is the show that I think everybody is really waiting for. And if you missed the news this week, Peter Dinklage is officially confirmed to be on it.
Cannot wait. I love him.
Yeah, it's like I am even more excited about that show now. So I think there was an opportunity that they could have done something there. The other thing that I would say I'm a little bummed out about, and you alluded to this already, is just that it was a really good opportunity that they could have brought on Matthews in the closing minute of this finale, where he could come in and do the "I'm the captain now" line, or something like that. And then we could have seen, okay, here's another familiar actor, because it really seems like they're prioritizing bringing on familiar faces. And that would have given us something more to be excited about when it comes to a season 2. So I wish that they had done something like that. I'm fine, of course, with the Spencer story being wrapped up
Mhm.
just because there wasn't really anywhere else that they were going to be able to go with that.
I'm really happy that they ended this season with Deb getting accepted into the academy. Like
Yes.
I have had the hardest time with her. I really like the actress. I think she's doing an excellent job as Deb, but it felt like they just didn't know what to do with her. She's just a rebellious teen, which is,
Yeah.
happens to all of us. So having her then kind of start to find her footing through her conversation with Tanya, through her conversation, talking to Bobby,
Yeah.
everything that had been happening. She's like, this is where I want to be. I want to be with my family. I want to sort of be the family business. Now I get to be part of everybody's secret conversations. I'm in on it. It's going to be really fun watching her go through the academy and get ready to come work in the office.
I just wonder, I guess this is a tinfoil hat. Like, I
Yeah.
wonder if before they started original season, they sat down Molly Brown, who's playing this Deb, and was just basically like, listen, this first season's going to be a little bit of a struggle. You're not going to have that much to do. Like, this happens with the Taylor Sheridan shows all the time, by the way. And they were just like, but don't worry.
We got you.
Season 2 is going to be good. Because, I'm really excited about seeing Deb at the police academy because it's just, not only is it going to bring her closer to the other characters, but you're also putting in this really foul-mouthed, rebellious person into this world where things are really about you got to follow all the rules. I just think the comedic potential of this is going to be really, really high.
Okay, are we going to see Tanya next season with the Buffy news that's out there?
I know.
With the fact that Sarah Michelle Gellar is a big Dexter fan and that she had nothing to do this season except be a fangirl on set, which I completely respect.
Yeah.
If they called me, I'm not interested in acting at all, but if they called me and was like, you want to be a dead body? I absolutely would like to be a dead body. Sign me up. So having her there has been great, but I wish that they had more to do with her. Who thinks she's coming back? She gonna make time?
Okay,
Can she do both? I feel like if they give her the same type of role where she's maybe on screen for 5 minutes or less, she can do both.
I'll say this first and foremost. When it comes to wanting to be on set, I'm right there with you. But here's my dream background character role on Dexter. I want to be sitting in Miami Metro. I want Dexter to bring me a donut, and then
Of course you do.
I get a free donut, and I also get the chill with Dexter on the set. It's a win-win. But no, with Sarah Michelle Gellar, I want to believe that we will see her again. Like, I'm pretty torn up on this back and forth for a few different reasons. I mean, one of them is just the idea that this Buffy revival, reboot, whatever we're calling it, like it seems like for now it's going to be on Hulu, so it's like not the same streamer. I don't know what the scheduling is going to be, but I do agree with you that she doesn't have a ton of airtime on this show.
No.
Like, depending on when this films versus when Buffy films, I think they can make something work. I hope they have a plan here. I hope she also had a Taylor Sheridan show conversation leading into this, where it's like, we're going to give you something, because this is going to be the thing that really enrages me. The season 2 premiere happens, and we just find out in some like throwaway conversation where Masuka is just like, "Did you know that
Tanya's been transferred?"
Yeah, and I'm just gonna be so upset about that. It's gonna be like, what a waste! What have we done with Sarah Michelle Gellar this whole time?
I'm worried about it too, but I mean, at least they would give Masuka more to do because he didn't have enough to do either. I mean, what a great character.
Yeah.
Alex has been amazing in this role.
Yeah.
Angel got kind of lost a little bit too in the last half of this season. He's amazing in this role. I really am looking forward to more of everybody being together. That's why I think Deb joining the force is the thing that's going to make all that come together in such a great way. And we are going to see more Masuka. We are going to see more Angel. Tanya probably going to get transferred. We'll see.
Yeah, just if you're going to transfer Tanya, I hope we at least get one episode with her. Or here's what you could do that would be really fun. And, we theorized about this a million times this season too, but maybe make her somebody who ends up getting got by whoever the next big bad is. So then Sarah Michelle Gellar, you can have the badge of honor of being killed off on Dexter, and then it can be linked, and then we can have more of this like closer Miami Metro family unit, which is something that I think both of us really, really like and want.
Well, here's the thing. If she gets transferred or something along those lines, it will give Masuka more to do because he'll be in charge.
Yeah, he will. And I very much am fully in support of that. I think the ending was Very fun, very sweet. I think we had a lot of kind of more tender moments with this group, which at this point I appreciated. I especially really appreciated just the individual conversations with Harry and Dexter, where
Yeah.
Harry is sort of wrestling with this. You were right, and I should have listened to you. And if I had listened to you, maybe these other things wouldn't have happened. And this really explains to me further, and this is provided that Brian doesn't end up taking Harry out down the road, but why Harry would end up dying the way he supposedly did, because not only is he carrying all this burden, but he
Mhm.
also knows now that Brian is still out there, that Brian has done these really terrible things, and he's keeping this as well.
Yeah.
Okay, here's just the last thing I have to say about this, because I know this question is coming up a lot. Dokes, he's not in the finale. I don't think we're going to see him as quickly as we are Captain Matthews, just because Matthews is more kind of ingrained in the lore.
Yeah, and we do already kind of have lore on Dokes of kind of around when he started showing up. I mean, it feels like it was a little bit later.
Yeah.
I can't see Dokes riding on Dexter as hard as he has been for 15 years. At some point, I feel like Dokes would have figured it out. It's not going to take Dokes 15 years to figure out what Dexter is doing. I don't know how Dokes comes in and we get to the point where in the OG series he is just following him around and like riding him really hard and is like, I know what you are, and has figured it all out.
Yeah, like, I love Dokes. Dokes is one of my favorite characters in this entire
He's
world.
amazing.
I would love to see him soon, but I think there's going to be little things that they make us wait for a little while.
Yeah.
I just think
And that's fine.
big picture here. I didn't know what to expect coming into Original Sin, just because New Blood had such a bad ending. The final seasons of the original show were really, really polarizing. And yeah, there were some things about this show that didn't work fully, but I'm coming out of it really happy. Like, I really enjoyed getting back into this world. I think the thing that they did the best was they made it funny. The earlier seasons of Dexter, yeah, they were dark, but there were funny moments at times.
Yes.
It really felt like Clyde Phillips went back, did his homework, really saw what people loved about the original show, and we got so much of that here.
Yeah, he knew the assignment. He did it right. Yes, there's a couple things that don't match up with the OG series. That's fine. It's not going to be perfect. This
Yeah.
is its own show. And yes, it's connected in the lore and all that, but they did a good enough job that some of these things, like the Maria thing that
Yeah.
I feel doesn't match up, but at the same time, I can be like, I can overlook it. Like, it's fine. If I
Yeah.
can overlook Dexter is a lumberjack, I can overlook this. If I can overlook how annoying Harrison was, I can overlook this. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, they didn't do anything that was so egregious that we're going to
No.
be sitting here and being like, the whole show is ruined. It's like, no, there's nothing like that.
No, this was a great ride. I'm really happy they did this show. I really hope that we get another season of it.
Yeah, well, let us know in the comments what you thought about the finale. Do you think we're going to see a lot more Brian Moser? What do you want to see in season 2?
Mhm.
Let us know. Hit that subscribe button. It's a great way to celebrate this day of love with us by joining us here long term. We do
Show
have,
us the love.
yes, we do have Resurrection coming. Yellow Jackets
Yes.
is already here, and
Yep.
you can support us further by joining our Patreon. We have that link in the description. We are covering over there The Pit on Max, really good medical drama, and then also Prime Target on Apple TV Plus. If you want an adventure thriller, it is right up your alley.
Yes.
Thank you guys. We'll see you here next time.